So we are joined by former Toronto Homicide Detective Mark Mendelson. Thank you so much for coming in, Mark. You could hear the furiousness in the OPP Commissioner's voice yesterday when he talked about this, especially given the fact that this is an individual, or one of the two individuals charged, was breached his bail conditions, but also the fact that he was prohibited from owning a firearm. As a former detective, what goes through your mind when you hear of all these things that came together in this horrible shooting?
Well, Jamie, you just shake your head. I mean, we have these conversations all the time. If we take away the tragic events of this week and go back to years and years of murders and gun and gang takedowns of organized crime, and we always hear the same story, that the accused was on bail conditions at the time that he committed the murder, that they had lifetime firearm prohibitions imposed. And it's a clear indication that maybe that's just not working. And when you listen to the commissioner yesterday, Tom Carrick, you could hear it in his voice. And I think that he was essentially echoing the sentiments of every police chief and every police officer in this country. And I would go as far as to say that he was echoing the sentiment of most people that live in this country. When you find out that there was just a clear disregard for any form of court order, any form of restriction, a lifetime firearms prohibition, another firearms ban on the last time he was out for bail, a fail to appear, a house arrest that he didn't follow through with either. You sit there and you shake your head and you think, had he been in jail? And let's be clear, I think this kid's a poster child for what a denial of bail is all about. These are violent offenses that he had in his history. He's only 25. They were weapons offenses. He made no effort in hiding guns on his social media. We saw pictures of, stacks of cash and a semi-automatic pistol on the table that he had posted. All of that, put it all together, and you have to ask yourself, had the system worked properly, he would not have been on the street.
Well, this story obviously ricocheting right through the policing community, but for the greater community in the city of Toronto and Ontario, there's been a lot of these concerns about the revolving door when it comes to our bail system. But on the flip side, when you look at what the Superior Court says, that these individuals have the right to a bail and they're presumed innocent until proven guilty. What needs to change when it comes to these bail restrictions and being granted bail on serious charges?
And I agree with the Superior Court of Ontario and the Supreme Court of Canada as well when they say that everyone's entitled to a speedy trial. That has not been something we've been able to pull off in this province for years, and that's one of the problems. Or one of the excuses that defense lawyers use in their arguments is that their client should be out on bail because it could be a year and a half or 2 years before they actually have their day in court. So why don't we start by speeding up that process so that if now somebody can get to trial in a matter of months as opposed to a matter of years, these more dangerous people will be kept in custody. And I'm a firm believer in the presumption of innocence as well. You're not guilty until you're convicted. I get all that. But again, this guy, you have to wonder, under what conditions, whether it's the primary grounds or the secondary grounds or tertiary grounds that are in place in the courts now for granting bail, where did he fit into that? And where was his surety? He was supposed to be under house arrest. Somebody dropped the ball in that position as well. So lots of changes, but let's start with the courts as well.
And very quickly, we only got about 30 seconds left, but I want to ask you, there's been so much focus on handguns, more so illegal handguns, and as a former detective, I'm guessing you have some questions about where did this guy get this gun?
Well, that'll be one of the focuses of the investigation. He was arrested with guns, he was convicted with guns, those guns were taken away. He obviously found another way to get himself into possession of handguns. We're going to find out what the source is. Chances are it's come through the United States, it's unlawfully obtained and in his possession. That's in a whole other conversation about how much money has to go into the border.
Toronto Homicide Detective Mark Mendelson, it's great to have you in the studio. Thank you.
My pleasure, Jamie.